Good morning. So, I'm going to talk about three leadership lessons I learned in managing my staff. So, number one, right? This is a good one. This is something that my mentor taught me. She would say, pull the weeds fast. So, what that meant was if you had a bad apple in the bunch, get rid of them. Get rid of them quick because weeds spread really, really fast. And it's better to cut your losses and pull them and get rid of them before they take over the whole garden. And what does that look like when they take over the whole garden? It looks like lower morale. It looks like lower productivity for the rest of your staff. Everybody's watching you to see how you are going to deal with that person. And when you don't deal with that person, it makes you look like an ineffective leader. So pull those weeds really, really, really fast. My screen is dirty. So the other leadership lesson that I learned was you not only do you have to pull the weeds really, really fast, but you also have to make sure that you are not relying on the same people over and over again. I was really bad at this one, guys, because if I knew that someone was a high performer and I didn't have to worry about giving them something, I knew it was going to get done. Not only did I know it was going to get done, I knew it was going to get done to my standard. Man, I would often give them things and not even with a lot of time sometimes. And I just knew that they were going to get it done. This can burn people out. Not only can it burn them out, they can start to feel taken for granted. They can get resentful too. And they're like, well, you never, in their head, they would never say this because they're high performing people, right? But it's happened to me as well. They were like, well, you don't give it to such and such, or why does this person, that weed over there that you haven't pulled, they don't get to do anything, but they're making the same amount of money that I am, but you're giving me these other duties as assigned, right? So you got to make sure that you balance out with your high performing people, that you um, don't just throw things at them. And not only that, you need to also ask yourself, how are you developing the other people around them so that the work is not equal, but as equitable as you can make it? So if you're doing that, look at what is your plan for the other people around them so that they can be elevated as well, and so that you are not just burdened these people. I had two great people on my staff that I often did. No, three at one time. I was really blessed, and I had some great staff that I could throw things at. They were powerful women, and I really appreciated them. But that's three out of a team about 40 or 50. So that was not fair to them, and I recognized that. And so as in recognizing that, I also understood that I was doing that. And when you know that you're doing that, you got to stop and refocus. And so the third point that I'm going to make, the third thing that I learned in leading and managing staff is, man, you got to set those boundaries, right? And this was a hard lesson for me. And complete vulnerability, I learned this lesson because of a huge mistake that I made. I had a team, and at one point, I would invite, just select members of the leadership team to my house, and we would hang out and we would have fun. And it became like a little clique, a little family. And when that happens, it's easy to cross boundaries, because people then start to think, well, we're friends. Like, you owe me a favor. Like, I can get away with this or I can do that, and it just makes things so much harder to discipline, to hold people accountable, um, all those things. And I won't even say it was just on their end. I'll say on my end as well. It was hard, and so I learned that after that I was going to set those boundaries, but I'm still a person who wants to extend recognition and still develop relationships, because that's what I'm all about. I am about developing relationships. So what I started doing was, if I invited people to my house, it was going to be 100% of people, and the invitation was extended to everyone, and it was going to be a company thing or organization thing, but held in my house, right? So everybody got the invitation. And I only did that once, maybe once a year. The other thing that I did, which I really appreciate, again, because I like building relationships, is I would take um, certain staff, not just certain staff, my high performing staff that I was always giving extra work to. I would take them to lunch and we wouldn't talk business, just to get to know them. We would go to my favorite place to eat. Don't judge. Don't judge. I would go to Denny's because I like breakfast. And we would go to Denny's and would sit down and would have conversations, things like that. So I would take them out to lunch or breakfast, just to hang out and just to say thank you, right? The other thing that I would do for my leadership team was one day, not just one day, a couple of days. I bought them all movie tickets and we went in the middle of the day and we went to go watch a movie. It was one of those stressful times in the office. I don't know if y'all in the nonprofit world, you have multiple events, you're doing multiple things and dealing with multiple fires. And it was just one of those days that I just looked at my team and they were ragged. They looked raggedy. So I was like, you know what? This is all going to be here when we get back. I need everybody to jump in this vehicle. We are going to go take a break. We need to reset. And so I took them all out. Sorry about the noise. I took them all out and we went to the movies in the middle of the day. One of the best decisions that I ever made, to reset the tone, to reset the environment, just to get them out of that rut, right? And just to say, you know what? I see you. I know you're struggling. I know we're all struggling. Let's take a break. If take a break, reset our minds, we can come back and look at this with a different perspective, a different, fresh perspective. So those are the things that I learned. My top three leadership lessons that I learned in managing a staff. Again, pull those weeds fast, pull them fast, pull them quick, because weeds spread. They're in the garden, they will take over. Every fresh flower you thought you had, they will smother them and kill them. And that goes, it's a great analogy. It goes for morale and productivity in your workforce. The other thing that I am going to say is number two, make sure that you're good people. You're not working them to death. And if you are, stop and say, okay, how can I develop the other people around me? Because that is going to help that person that you're working to death. And it's also going to help build the leadership skills, or the skills that the other people are lacking. So you owe that to your staff. And then three, again, is set those boundaries, but focus on relationships. And that looks different for everybody. Like, I have a friend that's a really good CEO of a nonprofit organization, and they do hang out in his home, and they have developed some great things. That worked for his staff. It did not work for my environment. So you know your environment. What worked for my environment is I would take people out to lunches. We would do resets in the middle of the day. We would go to the movies. We would do things like that. So everybody has this journey. But if those three things are what I learned over this course of managing people and dealing, especially in the industry that I was in, those lessons carried me really far. They helped me, especially as the staff grows, right? So if you're in the nonprofit industry, and I was with my organization for 20 years, so I watched my team grow from about, I think when I inherited my team, I had about 5 full-time people. And that team grew from 5 full-time people to 13 full-time people. And I only had maybe like 6 part-time. And it went from 6 part-time to about 30 part-time. So my team really grew fast. And as your team grows, you're going to deal with different experiences because that's what happens. The bigger the team, the bigger the experiences. And I used to say, I could do this job if it wasn't for the people, right? And I had an operations person, and we would just look at each other and we would go, people, 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 right? Because people come, we're human. So we all have our pros and we all have our cons. But as a leader, if you go in and you have, this is what they need to know from you. They need to know that you're going to be fair and that you're going to be consistent. Fair and consistent. That's what they need. Fair and consistent. So, in being fair and consistent, right? Make sure you pull the weeds fast. Make sure that you balance the work and not give the work to just one person or those top performers. Make sure you're developing those around you, and also make sure that you're setting boundaries. Don't just invite certain people to your home. If you're doing something, invite everyone. Is fair and consistency. So I hope this message resonated with someone, and I leave you with this: your mission matters and deserves to be funded to its fullest potential. And you have a blessed day. Bye bye now.